10-Minute Jazz Lesson Podcast, episode 381. Hey, everybody, welcome back to episode 381 of the 10-Minute Jazz Lesson Podcast. Last episode of the month of October, you know what that means. We're going to do our tune of the month. And this month, we're going to take a look at an absolutely classic jazz standard, one of my favorites, How High the Moon. And we're going to investigate some of these diminished sounds that we've been talking about in our etude this week. So before we jump into all of that, just want to remind you this is a listener-supported show, which means it's people just like you that tune into the podcast that keep us alive and keep this podcast coming out week after week. We don't do any advertisements on the show, and therefore we rely on your small monthly donations to keep us going. You do get a PDF and audio examples for every single episode in return for that donation, and we use the Patreon platform. So if you'd like to learn more about what you get, how much it costs, all that good stuff, you can go to our website, 10minutejazzlesson.com, click on one of the Patreon banners, or you can go to patreon.com and just search for the 10-Minute Jazz Lesson Podcast. Get yourself signed up today and become part of the family. Get a lot of jazz education materials in return. Wanted to give a quick shout out to some new patrons this week. Thank you to our new $5 patron, Eric, and thank you to our new $3 patrons, Benjamin, Thomas, and James. And of course, to the over 350 people that are supporting us over there. Thank you. We could not do this show without you. So again, patreon.com, search for the 10-Minute Jazz Lesson Podcast and become a member today. All right, so as I mentioned, we are going to be looking at the jazz standard, How High the Moon today. And this is a really important one, actually, because Charlie Parker basically used this progression, not like exactly, for his tune Ornithology. And that's a really important tune as well. So one of the cool things about learning this song is that you're actually learning two songs at once. And these are both really, really beautiful melodies. And the chord progression is really like functional. It has a lot of 2-5-1s, which is great. And it's actually a perfect place for us to start using some diminished sounds that we've been sort of talking about in this entire series. So we're going to see some of those diminished sounds in action, and you're going to be able to take those licks and analyze them or just outright steal them, put them in different keys, whatever you want to do. That's what these etudes are generally for, is for you to have some ready-made vocabulary as well as a fun thing that you can play along with. So let's go over the chord progression first, like we always do. We'll analyze the changes a little bit, and then we'll talk about the etude. Okay, so this song is traditionally played in the key of G major, and that is the first chord that we see. We see a G major 7 chord for 2 bars. Now what's going to happen is, and this is kind of the theme to this tune, we're going to move down to the key of F major. So we're going to move down by a whole step. And the way that we're going to prepare for that is by simply playing a 2-5-1 in the key of F major. So the G major chord becomes G minor 7, which is the 2 in F major. And then we go to C7, which is the 5. And then we resolve to that F major chord. And then kind of the cool thing, which makes it actually easy to hear and easy to remember both, is that we're going to move down one more whole step. So we're going to go from the key of F major down to the key of E flat major, and we're going to do it in exactly the same way. So we're in F major. That moves to F minor 7, which becomes the 2 chord, 5 to E flat major. Okay, so during the first 9 bars, we see it move through 3 different keys, but in a very logical fashion. So we start in the key of G, and then we move to the key of F. And then we move to the key of E flat. All right. Very easy to remember. That's what I like about this tune. I remember learning this when I was younger and going like, "Ooh, this is easy to remember." And that's always nice because not all tunes are like that. Okay, so now we're in the key of E flat. But then we see right away, and this is kind of a weird move, we have a 2-5 well, it looks like we're going back to the key of G major. But instead, we go to the key of G minor. And that's not a thing that we see like all that often. I mean, we do see it definitely, but moving to the parallel minor is something that is just less often used, I guess is the best way to put it. So we see a 2-5, so we're in the key of E flat. We do a 2-5 to G minor. Then we do another 2-5 in G, but this time we go to G major. So really interesting. And then the last 3 bars of the first half, we do 2, 5, 3, 6, 2, 5, and then we're back in the key of G major. So let's play the entire first half and hear what it all sounds like. So we start in the key of G, 2, 5 to the key of F, 2, 5 to the key of E flat, then 2, 5, G minor, then 2, 5, G major, 2, 5, 3, 6, 2, 5, 1. And sometimes you'll see the last 2 bars of the first half, people play slightly different things. They'll move in half steps, they'll do some substitutions, but I like to just think about that as a 3-6-2-5. Okay, so and then in the second half, well, I guess we should mention the form to this tune. I think about it as A, B, A, C. So at this point, we're back on an A section and we're back in the key of G. We move back to the key of F. Then we move back to the key of E flat. Now we're in the C section, and this does change a little bit, but only slightly. So now we're in the key of E flat. We're down in the last 2 lines, and we play a 2, 5, but this time we go directly back to G major. And then we do 2, 5, and then this, traditionally, we do 3, flat 3 dominant. That's going to lead us to the 2, 5, 1. And then at the end, we just have 2, 5, and that brings us back into the top. Okay? So very, very close to the first half, actually. So let's listen to the entire second half. Okay, so actually a very, very simple, straightforward tune that has great chord changes. Now, speaking of those chord changes, I wanted to use the diminished sound over a lot of the 5 chords going to 1 chords. I love using diminished when you're moving to a major key. So this is like the perfect tune to kind of do that in because there's a bunch of major 2-5-1s. So obviously I want you to do the work of kind of going in and analyzing everything. And wherever you think you might hear a diminished sound, I want you to investigate that, see what I'm doing, see if it can benefit your own playing, see if you can make sense of it, all that kind of stuff. But let's listen to the etude, and I want you to really, really keep your ears open for the sound of diminished over a 5 chord moving to a 1 chord. So you can really hear there's a lot of tension and release in there. And I tried to build all of that tension and release using the diminished sound, using some of the concepts that we've been talking about for the last handful of episodes. So let me know if you have any questions. Remember, you can get the PDF to the etude in all keys: C, B flat, E flat, and bass clef. And you can also get a backing track and that demo of the etude by choosing to support the podcast on Patreon. 10minutejazzlesson.com, click on one of the Patreon links, or patreon.com, find the 10-minute jazz lesson there, and become a supporter. Okay, we will see you all in the month of November. Hope you're all doing well out there as always, and we'll talk to you soon. Bye, everybody.